Welcome to Frank Talking, Part 2. This is Beesotted's chat with Brentford head coach Thomas Frank, which is held at the Red Lion pub in Barnes. Part 1, you can check it out on prideofwest.london. Also, good news, Beesotted have been shortlisted for a Football Supporters Association Award in the fan media category. So if you go to beesotted.com/awards, you can vote for us. We'll really appreciate a little vote. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. This is the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast. So this is part 2 of the West London podcast, coming from the Red Lion pub in Barnes, taking great care of us. It is just down the road from Hammersmith over the bridge, which is shut. So if you get a scooter, you just come over here, come down here, come to the pub. They'll take great care of you. Just say the Beesotted crew sent you, and they'll give you a pint, and they'll say thank you very much. And I'm here. I'm Billy Grant, and I'm sitting here with my chums. I've got Laney Lane, I've got Savvy B, I've got the Allard, and I've got Thomas Frank. And this is part 2, as we say. If you want to check out part 1, go to prideofwest.london or go to Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Acast, any of the good podcast platforms, and you'll be able to find it. And like I said, you click on automatic downloads because we've got more to come as well. And also check out on YouTube because we're going to upload this one as well. But listen, that last podcast we chatted about Huddersfield and Millwall and Swansea and winning and losing and all sorts of stuff, crying. And also the Wigan game, which has already taken place. And now we're going to be talking about other bits and pieces, just sitting out there, just shooting the breeze with Thomas in the Red Lion and Barnes. Thomas, you obviously come over from Denmark, from a place called... Is it? How was that? I thought
it's bitter, years ago.
It's not as good as my Rem, you know what I'm saying? It's not like Rem, is it? But, okay, tell me how we pronounce your town.
Hvidovre.
Oh, Hvidovre.
Okay.
Well, I'm still working on it, but this is about 10 kilometres outside of Copenhagen. Yeah. So in effect, it's kind of like living in sort of kind of Hempstead.
Is that Brentford?
It's compared to Brentford.
So you're the Brentford of Copenhagen.
Yeah, you could say that.
4 legs or 6?
Sorry?
4 legs or 6? Yes. On the bees.
On the 4.
4, okay, that's not good enough. Fake for But listen, so you've come there, and like I said to you, you live there with your... Just tell us a bit about your family.
Yeah, we lived there for 12 years together, and then December 16 I moved over here on my own for 6 months, and the rest of the family joined me in July 17, and we lived here since. And my kids and my wife are enjoying it a lot here in London. So
and again, your wife, how many kids you got?
I got 3 kids. Girl 13, boy 16, girl 17, and then my lovely wife. So it's quite busy sometimes.
And do they like it in London?
Yeah, I think we are extremely privileged to be here in London because it's a wonderful city, and the experience so to be fair, we wanted to go abroad, of course, my career and all that, but for me at least 50% of it was as a family, to get a different challenge, a different experience, a different opportunity in life, and we're very pleased that we got this one. And I think my kids and my wife embraced it fantastically, and hopefully they will mature and grow from this.
But again, it's a bit of a kind of I'm not even. It wasn't a dead cert for you because you're there in Copenhagen. You've just been manager of Brøndby, who are one of the top 3 sides in Copenhagen. Somebody puts a call in going, excuse me, do you want to be assistant manager at Brentford? And you're like, probably like, I've never heard of them. You know what I'm saying? And no, you've got to move to London with your whole family to be at Brentford, right? When you're at Brøndby. Surely you must have been thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah, to be fair, I was after I left Brøndby, I wanted to be a head coach or manager again, but I also wanted to go abroad to get that challenge and experience I just talked about. But in football, you can't be too picky or too, how can you say, can't just decide your next job. It's so difficult just to get these top jobs. So the first time I heard that I should be an assistant manager, I was a little bit, that was not what I was thinking about. But then I got over here and I heard a story from Rasmus, Phil, and Matthew, and I spoke to Dean and Richard, and after 3 meetings, I think the idea was been growing on me. I could see, this could be quite interesting, and I love this challenge, and what can happen if I do that a couple of years and then see what's happening.
Again, and Dean Smith, we love Dean Smith because Dean Smith was a manager who came in at a time that we were in a little bit of a pickle, but he did the right things, especially, like I said beforehand, he was a Brentford he was a Brentford manager, and he just basically just worked with us to try and make us better, and that's why we really like Dean, and that's why we will never knock him for going to Aston Villa and doing what he's doing. So he was at Brentford doing his thing. You came in, look, come on, Thomas, just tell us, mate. Surely you must have thought, hold on a second, he's probably going to leave quite soon. I'm going to get this job.
Nice try. No, because I think one of the big things I think in football and life, of course, especially in football, is it's all about trust. And if you don't trust each other, you can't work together. So I knew that me coming in from Denmark, another country, coming into a club as a coach from the outside that's been a head coach before, I knew I need to work extremely hard to earn that trust. And you can only do that by building a good relationship. And I can't praise Dean and Richard enough for being so welcoming to me. And I lived in their house the first week I went here. And they just did everything they could to make me feel welcome. So no, it worked out perfectly.
So that was the question, really, was how did you work it that you weren't seen as a threat to them? Because obviously you were being brought in with different ideas, and very early on you were seen on the touchline. You were standing up with them, discussing changes, maybe recommending substitutions. So how do you manage that?
I think from the beginning, I started the first dinner we went out. I said, I'm very pleased that I'm here with you guys, but I know it's all about trust. I've been there before. I've been a head coach. I had other assistants, and I know the only thing is that if we trust each other and we build that relationship, then we have a good chance. And I know it's me that needs to earn it. It's not you guys. But I also think it helps the way they are as persons. They're so open to different ideas, and then in the beginning, of course, I know, of course, I have my ideas, but I knew in the beginning I need to be holding back and be aware of step by step, and then take it from there. But for me, it was important that from literally the first game, I think Dean was listening to some of my advices, and not everything is perfect, but there's just small ideas, and I think that just helped all of us. I think not my advice, but that we instantly from the first minute clicked.
And I'm going to ask you just quickly, and I'm going to come to the Allard in a minute, because when you got appointed, and like I said, you were a head coach at Brøndby, and I remember we were sitting in the podcast going, oh, this guy's head coach at Brøndby and he's assistant to us now. What's going on here? Then we thought, actually, no, the way that Brentford operates, because I know that, beforehand, I know Matthew wanted to bring certain people in, I think under different, head coaches and managers, but it didn't quite happen for particular reasons. And I think that it will only happen if the head coach is amenable to that happening. I think Dean Smith was amenable to thinking, right, we thought at the time, maybe Dean thought, I'm doing all right now. I'm not 100%. I'm making a few mistakes, and maybe I need a little bit of help in certain areas. So we were thinking that maybe that you were brought in to add something into a particular area that maybe Dean wasn't as proficient at. Proficient is probably not the right word, but just to add to the team. So what do you think that you were adding when you came in as a head coach? Or an assistant head coach, sorry.
I think we all have different skill set, players and or coaches, and hopefully we are slightly different to get the best out of each other. And I think the way I'm thinking, maybe I was slightly more structured, or slightly more very everything I'm thinking about when I'm trying to to make a training drill is that it needs to be linked to the style of play. So those two bits was maybe the bit where I where I stood out, or where I did things differently, because Dean and Richard still had top training drills and still top, but I was just so. That's maybe the way I've been brought up, or my way of thinking, and they had some of course. So and then we were talking. I think because the thing I want to say is actually the way we looked at football was similar. So that was key. If it was not because both or all three of us wanted to dominate game and wanted to play football, then then it couldn't work. And I think I just brought some different ideas.
You almost sort of stole my question, to be honest, Bill. But directly in a game, what would you say you had the most influence on when you were working with them? Was there anything like was it systems, substitutions? Was there anything? Because it seemed you used to sort of stand there and talk to them quite a bit, and you'd be making some pointers and stuff like that. Was there anything that you were particularly influential on?
I can't remember that in the game. I think that's depending on the game, and that's just depending. I think. I think I had different ideas in terms of my way of seeing football, but still in the same, same direction. Maybe not. I know. Maybe also slightly more details. That's not more right, but that was just maybe what fitted the mixed.
In Dean Smith's era, I mean, you said in another interview that you had a big input in signing a number of players. I'm just wondering, in the Dean Smith era, are there any players that you had an input in actually saying, tell you something, they'll be really good for our side in this transition phase that we're looking at?
I think you should always be a little bit aware of that, because we all looked at the players and we all was a part of the decision. So the easy part was for me to sit here and brag and say, oh, no, it was only me who found Neil Maupay. But unfortunately, that was not the case. I think we are all part of, finding the players. And but what I can say is that I said yes, that I think he could be a top player. But as far as I know, Dean also said yes to that.
And also
because we was in the same room, so
yeah. And I'm going to come to Savvy B as well. But obviously, what's happened is that as a head coach now, and the thing is, we chat, quite a lot, Thomas, and we chatted, like I said to you, back in the day, like in December, just when you've been a coach for a month and a bit. And the one thing I did get from you that time is that you were very focused on what you wanted from the players, what you wanted on the pitch, and the type of players that you wanted. And even though you didn't say it so much, because you can't say these things, but you felt that you needed to add to what you had to make the perfect side that you needed as well. The players that you had, you thought were really great and they will develop, but you also felt that you needed some particular players in the side. So I think you were very focused. So it seems that even though everyone thinks that we just go out and plunk numbers into a computer and all of a sudden players pop out of that computer and they come onto the pitch, it seemed to me that actually you were very instrumental in bringing in a number of players into the side this summer from your brief. Is that correct?
I think it's natural. Hopefully that the head coach has a big voice in terms of selecting the new players. But I think one of the, because we do it together, and we do it in a specific way, and we play a specific style. But it's me in the end who need to pick that player. And if I don't feel for him or like him, then he can have the greatest number, or 6 other people can think, oh, he's really good, but I really don't fancy him. Right or wrong, I don't know, but that's just a big part of it. But the good thing is that we are most of the time very on the same page in terms of what direction we want to go. But yeah, I have my strong opinion about players I think we should get. Most of the time we agree.
I mean, you talk about the success of the players that you found over those 3 years you've been here. What about the ones that didn't work out? Who would you say was any player that hasn't worked out?
Again, it's not. We do it together, so I would say. So I think that's one of the strongest competitive edges we have in Brentford. Is the players we've found, because I also know the past history, because I know Rasmus, going back, and I know the history of the club and all that, and I listened to Phil and Matthew. But from that transfer window in January 17, I think all the play, because I think there was some quite mistakes before that. But I think from that transfer window, going forward until now, I can't really find, and now maybe you say, oh, what about him? But I can't really find a player that I will say that, that was a big mistake.
No Hoffmans.
That was before that.
That's what I'm saying. No Hoffmans, no Big Nicks, Big Nick.
Yeah, who was that?
Nick Prosvich.
I don't even know who he is. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we were talking before you arrived, and we were trying to think of a player that didn't work out in the last 3 years, and we couldn't think of one. But you've also obviously bought into the model that sort of Rasmus and Matthew and Phil follow. So, how were you sold on that, and what do you think frustrates you most about that model?
In terms of finding players, or in terms of the stats, or
what does it stop you doing? You have to sell a nil Mopo every year.
Okay, that's part of the strategy, I would say. So part of the strategy, of course, I can't think of any coach that don't want to keep their best players. So of course, in the moment, it's slightly frustrating in the particular moment. But I've bought into it, and I understand why we do it, and I think it's quite fascinating that I can when I look back at the January transfer window and the summer transfer window, that we have plus I don't know how many million pounds. That's amazing, and we actually think that we have at least as strong a squad as last year, if not slightly stronger. So I think that's very impressive. Yeah, I think it's that's also what makes it interesting. So even that is frustrating sometimes to lose the best players. That now we finally and could just keep them one season more, 6 months longer, then maybe something. But it's part of it, and that's the challenge.
But again, you're interesting you say that, because you say that with a lot of confidence, maybe because of the way the club's run. If you look at Barnsley, Daniel Stendel, okay, the Barnsley fans love him, that he took them up last season. He had half his team ripped away from him. They brought players in that either haven't gelled or aren't quite right, and within weeks he's got sacked from Barnsley because he hasn't been getting the right results. Now, I'm sure that you must be able to kind of empathise with Stendel to a certain extent, because he's the head coach and he's going to be judged by the results. But if he hasn't got the players to give him the results, then he's going to feel the cropper. And the same thing to you to a certain extent, because again, when the fans were singing you're going to get sacked in the morning, but at the end of the day you've had Neil Maupay go from you, it hasn't been replaced. Okay, Ollie Watkins scored goals, but people aren't scoring goals from other areas, and you've got 25 players gelling at the same time. You know what I'm saying? I'm being a bit facetious there, but you understand what I'm saying. So it's all going to fall on you. So you must get a bit frustrated thinking, okay, I understand, but it's really annoying because it's falling on me.
I think if you look at the players we brought in this summer, I think they're also quite promising. The number of players we bought, I think it's too many in terms of the perfect turnaround year to year. But we even a well run club as us, we still don't hit it bang on, because there's things in the market we can't control and stuff like that. But look at the quality of players and the names and where they're coming from this year. I think that's tell everybody that we are trying to push to the next level. What that next level is, I don't know exactly, but we are trying, or maybe we just need to do that also to keep up. So I think that's the interesting part. If we did like Barnsley did, I think Stendel did a top job. I think Klopp did a top job. Then they're getting promoted. And then they're getting promoted, and they're selling their 4 best players. And they're selling their 4 best players, and they're getting absolutely, bad players in. So if it was that way, then I maybe would have been, this is not fair. But this way we're doing it, I think it's completely well thought through and a top strategy.
What age were you when you realised that you were a football intellectual? When you understood the game better than you could play it? And
6 years.
no. So you didn't play the game at the highest level. You weren't a Frank Lampard, or for an even worse comparison, John Terry. But you understood the game intimately, and you were able to kind of visualize scenarios and be able to pick formations that were winning formations. What age were you when you kind of decided that I've got a career in the game that is beyond my footballing, my actually playing days?
Even though you didn't really play it that much, though, as well, did you?
No, I think I was, unfortunately, the coaches I had, they were so bad, so they didn't see my potential. Yeah, exactly. No, I think I loved to play football since I was a kid, and I played grassroots level throughout my life. But when you're so I never had a dream of being a footballer. I just loved the game, and then I when I was 20, I started coaching, and I thought that was quite funny. And then I went to university, and kept coaching. And there was never like a specific, okay, now I want to be professional coaching, just living of coaching football. But after 5, 6, 7 years, then okay, maybe I have a chance. But it's not like still like a top aim. I just enjoyed it so much, so I just put hours and hours in coaching, studying, watching football. And then when I think I was 30, I got my first professional job as kind of a IDP coach we have here, but also / academy director, because we're a little bit we haven't built the academy strategy that well at that time. But even that, when I was 30 there, and then it took me, I think I was then I became the youth national head coach for under 17, under 19. But even when I had that, after 3 years, 4 years, I was not thinking, I need to be coaching senior teams or professional football. It just came. And I don't know what my next target is. Of course, I'm growing in confidence and stuff, and I feel, okay, maybe I'm okay at this. But I also know it's like changing so quickly.
Are there any examples where, and maybe it's going for a job, or maybe it's on the training pitch, where it's been thrown back at you that you haven't played at a level by anybody?
I would say the only it's the media and potentially the fans. Again, I don't read it, but sometimes I get told things, but no, never. I know that I needed to work harder to earn the respect, because it's just, for whatever reason, just more natural for a top footballer to just be, if you played 500 games in Premier League, you're suddenly a top coach and top manager. And like with everything else, all these theories that you need to do things 10,000 times or 10,000 hours. That's the same if you want to be a top coach. You need to be out there on the training pitch 10,000 times. Then you can buy yourself some time by being a smart footballer, because he's actually been training a lot of these drills. Of course, you don't have to do 10,000, but you still need to do more than just, okay, I quit playing, bang, I'm going to be a top coach. No, you're not. In terms of working with players and taking decisions, and no, it's not that easy. But they have something I never will have. They've been that dressing room, they've felt some of these things, but for me that's just a minor part of it.
I'm going to ask a question as well, and again, this is not a disrespect on the players that we've got now, but we're shooting the breeze here, and we're talking the truth as well, and we're just saying that obviously we had a number of difficulties, particularly in the beginning of the season, in particular in our midfield, in trying to make things happen. We lost Romain Sawyers at the end of last season. Do we miss Romain Sawyers?
I miss him so much. I think he's a top footballer and a top personality, and I think he was a fantastic player and person for Brentford Football Club. But I think that he the time was come. He got an offer from his boyhood club, West Brom. So sometimes things like that happened, and he got that opportunity, and that's what we are all about. We give people those opportunities. But I also was, that moment in time, I was pretty. I knew that, as everybody could see, the first 10 games, it will not just be, okay, Matthijs Jensen, Christian Nørgaard, or just Asil, they just take over after Romain. But I knew after hopefully 10, 12, 14 games, they will take over and hopefully be good players. And over time, you never know if they're actually going to be even better than Romain. But I think this moment in time, there's no doubt that Romain is one of the best midfielders in the league.
And again, we can't labour on this because, again, it's unprofessional for you to talk about players, especially particular players who are at the club at the moment now. And I know that you're working with them to get better. From fans, we're thinking that we see with Norgard, we've seen improvements in him over the past 3 or 4 games, as it was. Initially, I think that he was a little bit rabbit in the headlights. He didn't really know what's going on. And also Jensen, he can ping a good pass and he's doing particularly good things, but still there's work in progress there. Do you agree with our sentiments?
No, yeah, 100% agree. I also think those fans who, loved Romain and thought it was a disaster, who said goodbye to him. I wasn't here in his first season, but I've been told, and probably the 4 of you also remember his first half season, maybe a full season. There was, as far as I know, he was not particularly praised every single game. And I think he only got better and better the last 2 years. So if you take that curve, and I think the 2 players, I think they have they are Jensen is the one who is the most the closest to the type of Romain. I think he has top potential. There's a reason why Celta Vigo bought him, and Ajax they wanted him as well. So we are watching a player that's been not playing for a year, that's been captain his under 21 side 2 years in a row for a European Championship. I think he'd be a brilliant player for us.
And I'm going to say as well, again, chatting to you, like I said to you, as I've done a lot, and one thing I got from you is that it was about your ethos for the players, the way that they were meant to play. And there was one time when I was sort of saying to you, we were going about, why don't you just throw this person for the B team and that person, at the time that we weren't winning any games, we're thinking, we've got nothing to lose, let's throw all these B team players in and they'll be brilliant, and they're brilliant and we're going to win lots of games. But you were saying about you felt that players needed to have a more rounded game. They needed to be great attackers, but also have the defensive side of it as well. I think one of these players might have been sort of Josh De Silva, who you felt at the time needed to build on his game. So I'm just wondering, the development of this players, how have you seen it come on since a year ago?
No, I think Josh De Silva is a prime example of that. He was coming with an injury, to be fair, from Arsenal, so he was not really up and going before, I think, November in terms of training. And it's like with all other young players, he didn't know how hard to work and train, but he was gifted with unbelievable abilities. So it's easy to see, whoa, now he cut and just curled into the top corner. Wow, he should just play every single game. But there's so many other parts of the game that he needs to be capable of doing. And to be fair, he's been working really, really hard, and I'm really proud of his development and the way he's been, handling it. Because there's been some up and downs, there's been some serious talk in the office, or serious talk with the other coaches, and and also a pat on the back, and an arm around the shoulder, and sometimes a little go. So it's just absolutely natural working with a young player with a huge potential, and I think he'll be absolutely brilliant for us in the future.
I'm going to ask, because we've got defensive issues, or we had defensive issues, so we've changed it, we brought players in, right? We had. However, we sold one of our defenders to another team, and this defender now is, for clearances, 4th best in the Premier League for clearances, 4th best for interceptions, 7th for aerial wins, 4th for blocks. That's John Egan. And also Jack O'Connell, another one we left, is 5th best in the Premier League for clearances, 2nd for aerial wins, and 8th for passes blocked. Do you think we made a bit of a mistake letting these 2 go?
I can't talk about O'Connell because it was before my time. John Egan, I know very well, and I think he is another player we should be very proud of. We were part of his development, and there's a reason why he went to another club. And I think also in that stage, I think it was the right thing for John Egan to move to Sheffield United that moment in time. And the way they play, I think it suited him absolutely perfect to play in the middle of a back 3. And does that superb in terms of how they play.
But to be fair, we flipped to that after a while, though, didn't we?
No, we flipped to that in December, but he sold it in the summer. So because that moment in time we wanted to play with a back 4, and for whatever reason it was just the way it went.
It's one of those things where you just quickly as well. I know we're going to come to Laney. Ellery Balcombe as well, goalkeeper. I was down at St George's Park a few weeks ago, and I was talking to Chris Powell and a lot of the England coaches and the players and everything like that, and they're saying Ellery Balcombe, thumbs up. In fact, that day actually he did a training session with the England first team as well, and he's highly right. And he was asking me, how's he doing, at Brentford, and I said, well, first, second, maybe third in, we're not quite sure. But how exactly does this work? Because he's highly rated. He's an England under-21 goalkeeper, but he's kind of sort of third in line. I mean, surely he needs to kind of go up the pecking order if we're going to keep him.
Yeah, of course. But I think we are very privileged because I think we talked about David Raya before. For me, top 3 keeper this moment in time in Championship. I think Luke Daniels is a top second goalkeeper, experienced lad who is bringing so much to the pitch and the dressing room. And then we have 2 very, very skillful young goalkeepers in Patrick Gunnarsson and Ellery Balcombe. And you can't have 4 in the first team squad, and especially the 2 young ones, they need to play. So we decided this year it was Patrick that we kept, and Ellery we sent on loan, and they are very, very pleased with him in the second best tier in Denmark, where he is playing currently for the best team in the division.
I'm going to go on and just around another corner is at the Justice League. This is all the XG, the Justice League is, or as we call it, and just explain to us exactly what the Justice League is, because we understand it, but other people think it's a load of gobbledygook. But how is it useful to Brentford?
Honestly, I think it depends, because now there's a lot of these so-called expected goals out there against and for, and there's a lot of websites and now apps, and so we don't know exactly how all those providers they actually calculate those expected goals. But
so Brentford basically they've got their own one which they own.
The thing. Yeah, exactly. The big difference is that the reason why Matthew Benham earned all his money was because of the clear model and a clear way of seeing things in terms of stats. And all the money is earned through betting on different games is through this model. So it's a well-run model and developed model, and it's 100% different. It's not like we see a game and expected XG was 1.5 towards 0.8 from one of the other providers, and then Matthews will say 0.0 against 0.4. No, 1.0, 0.4. It's not like that massive difference, but there is a difference. It is much more reliable, the one we are using. But that's only one side of the way we judge our performances. Because for me, performances is we can use the stats to what we want, but it's quite nice to see if you have 25 shots and the opponent have 2 shots. If you just play that game again, there's a much bigger chance that we win. And now they go more in depth to see, did they take all the shots outside the 18-yard box, or did they take all of them inside the box? Okay, then again you have a bigger chance to win. So I think for me we use it as performance indicators to actually see and look at our performance calm, because we also like the fans, we also get emotions, we also get frustrated, we also want to win. So it's nice actually to use a tool to perform every game, but also on the longer run, because I think that's important.
When you try and impart some of this information on the players, do you talk about it in those terms, XG or whatever, or do you sort of translate it into more sort of football terms? I mean, because I suppose one of the things I wonder about is, can this overcomplicate things for players? Can it mean that they don't do things so naturally as they might? How do you compensate with that?
I think we mainly use it to boost the players, because maybe there were some fans who said Frank sacked in the morning, but if they actually looked at the performances we had just literally every game by game, I think even with the eyes, and you look back on that calm, you could see that we played better, created more chances, and if you do that game by game, then you will get more points, because that's just how it works, because it's such a random game. But we used it to boost the team to see, okay, we're actually doing quite well in a lot of these areas that we wanna do well in. And then if we can't score goals, of course, then we're working on that with more finishing, more patterns, more relations in terms of that.
But then some people say, but great, those figures are great, but at the end of the day, the other team scored 1 goal more than us. So that's all nonsense. You know what I'm saying? And I understand what you're saying, but and it is true. They said, but the only thing that really counts is scoring a goal. So how can you combat that? Because in a way they are right, even though. Okay, there's an argument to say that if you're creating loads and loads of chances, eventually you will probably score some of them, or you've got just a terrible striker and you need to buy another striker.
Of course, there's something with quality. If you put a striker in a 1v1 situation with the keeper, you'll never score 10 out of 10. We all expect that, but it'll always be 1 out of 3 or something like that. And then, of course, there's difference between getting Neil Maupay in that situation or Ollie Watkins in that situation, and then, a League 2 striker. There'll just be bigger chance for Neil Maupay and Ollie Watkins to score because it's also slightly about quality. But everybody, the best example I can give in that is the Birmingham game. That is the most, freaking result in the world of history. Football is the only sport of all the sports in the world where if you dominate that much that we did that game, you'll win the game. Basket, volleyball, handball, cricket, rugby, 100 meter, everything is not as random as football. That's why it's good for fans. Fair, they can have all or everybody else, media, but for us that need to be calm and need to to affect what we can affect. Actually, our performances is a really good tool.
I think I suspect that the Justice League has actually kept Dean Smith and yourself in a job over sort of various different periods over the past 3 years. But I just wonder, does it work the other way around? I mean, could you sort of go on a run of 4-1-0 wins, but you were absolutely awful and just did a Birmingham 4 times?
Sorry, Thomas, and let me just explain to people, the Justice League is basically a league which is based on XG, which is the quality of chances that you created. So you might be in a league position of second, but if you look at the XG, the chance that you created, actually the chart says that you should have been in 14th or 16th. So at the moment now, I think Brentford, who are in, 11th place, are we? 13th place, but the Justice League say we should be in 7th, and there's certain teams, I think it is, Sheffield Wednesday, who are in 6th place, who the Justice League says should be in 2nd place. So this basically reflects, according to the stats people, where you should be.
I can say in the Smartos model we're using, we should be in 3rd.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay,
but,
and we use the Infogol model, which you can get on an app on your phone.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I'm nothing against Infogol. I think they do a lot of things right. I don't know exactly what they're doing. I just know the other model. But again, we don't take it, okay, we lean ourselves back and then we relax, no, everything's fine. No. We are so irritated when we lose a game like we do Saturday, and we do everything. We're thinking so much, how can we improve it, how can we train it, what kind of message do we deliver, and so on, all the time.
So I mean, we want to be Sheffield United this season. How can we be Sheffield United, Thomas?
We should never be Sheffield United. We should just be Brentford.
No, but you know what I mean. Sheffield United came out of the blue last season. They were a completely unfancied team, and they just absolutely tore up the whatever anyone else says they're going to do. And they said, we're doing what we're doing, and bang, see you later. So we want to be Sheffield United, who are playing some half-decent football, but are also quite tough.
But if we act tough in terms of what, not conceding goals, or tough to run into?
I think they were just when you played against them at times, especially when you played against them, that they were difficult to break down.
Yeah, agree. But I also think we are quite difficult to break down, aren't we, this season?
I think it probably at times, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we should be Brentford. We should do it in the way we believe in. And if we do that well enough and develop, as I think the defensive is a fantastic example to take forward, because we've been conceding so many goals for the last 5 years in Championship. We don't do this year. So we are clearly doing something right in terms of training the organization, getting the right players in, and training the mindset. So that's a clear area that we're working on, and now we just need to get the offensive part of it up to speed as well, which actually we did the last 3 games before Huddersfield. So I think we're in a quite good place, and a big thing, we need to dream big, but we need to have an unbelievable focus on the next training, the next game. If we do too much thinking, oh, it could be so nice and we want to. No, forget it. So we need to have an unbelievable focus every single day, and then maybe someday some magical will happen.
I'm thinking about the future. We've already talked about Ellery Borkham, B-team players coming through. Joe Hardy, he seems to score a lot of goals, but he doesn't seem to kind of get near to the first team. Again, we all know, you know, and I know that he's obviously got some sort of skill. Is there something that he needs to still be working on to try and get a little bit closer?
I think that he's one of those players that need to find another club and maybe hopefully get a breakthrough there.
Okay, all right. B-team players, you talk about, was it Okenson and Zambrick, who you, again, 6 or 7 months ago, you must be pleased with their development through to, well, in effect, becoming first-team players.
Who was the first player, sorry?
Is it Okenson? Oksanen.
Yeah, both of them very pleased, and you know, just to go back to Joe, he's a really interesting player, but for whatever reason, sometimes it doesn't fall out in the way all of us dreamt of, and now is the situation where I need to try something else. But Jansen Borg is a fantastic player, which I have a big belief in will hopefully get a big future here at Brentford. And Jaak Oksanen, he done really well. He's just steadied a little bit, but with young players we know it's just not like that. Just going up, it's like, you know, a little bit forward, then a little bit down, then a little bit up, and then hopefully over time we can go more and more.
And is there anybody else from the B team, because this was your prediction from beforehand, and they've obviously come through, anyone else? And again, you're not putting it on the spot and saying these other players aren't going to make it, but are they sort of, you know, players must know there's a little nuggets where you're sort of thinking, this is quite interesting, maybe I might try that person out.
This moment in time, I must say, there's a young fullback, Mads Roverslev. I think he will get a chance, yeah.
Okay, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, with the B team, we noticed that some of the players, because I went to the Hanwell Town game, and some of the players you'd expect to be in the B team aren't in the B team. We was just having a chat to people, and they said, "Oh no, they're on the loan list." So, could you explain what the loan list is? I think it's people like De Silva, who they're hoping to put out on loan.
Yeah. So. No, but I think there's some players that, you know, a little bit like Joe Hardy. There's a certain time where you can play in the B team. I think for me, around 2 years is the perfect. Of course, can we do it shorter, like Jansen Borg, 1 year, then bang up in the first team squad. But I think 2 years time is the maximum for a young player. Then I think you need to see, can I step up? Because I've been here in this youth development environment, and now I need to see that I got a chance. If not, then I maybe need to move on, to go on loan and to play grown-up football, then hopefully come back or take another step. There's so many ways to the top, so that's the way we do it.
So I'm just going to ask you one final question on this one. Brentford now, and I know you said it a bit before, but I'm going to ask you straight up. This Brentford team now, do you think it's better than the Brentford team of last season?
They're definitely better at defending. That's a fact. I think, and that's totally natural, because a lot of the players last season played together for at least 2 years, and I think you see this current team will grow and be extremely good. I have big expectation to them, but I would say last year at the peak moments there was some unbelievable, beautiful football, which I haven't seen consistently or at as high yet, but I know it will come.
Thomas Frank, thank you very much. This is the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast. You can catch part 1 of this podcast on prideofwest.london, also Spotify, TuneIn, iTunes, Acast, all good podcast platforms. Check automatic downloads, and you can get the podcast downloaded to your device. And also check out YouTube. It's been great chatting to you for this one, Thomas. Listen, we're in the pub here, the Red Lion in Barnes. They've been taking great care of us, and as good Brentford fans, as we say,
come on,
you bees. Peace.
And don't forget to vote for Beesotted in the Football Supporters Association Awards in the Best Fan Media category. Just go to beesotted.com/awards. You can vote right there. Thanks again for listening.